Irimi ukemi. This is the entering throw ukemi. This is how we're going to recover our balance after we've been cut down into the front. Notice we put our hand down and we slowly lower our knee to the mat as we pivot around the outside with our outside leg in a bigger circle. Here we drop levels, put our knee on the ground as our head's pulled forward. We post our hand, pull our knee under us as we try to get our hips closer to under us so we can straighten our posture and stand up in like a lunge position. So here you can see it in 2 steps because he's pulling in a circle. We're the wider part of the circle and we're going to recover our balance, getting our hips under us and stepping up. Here's the application. Koho Kaiten ukemi. This is your back roll. We start on our knees with one knee up, the other one under us. As we tuck the other one under us further, we're going to go ahead and sit back on our tush. Go to our hip and roll to our far shoulder. Make sure that you keep your hands up in front of you in case your opponent's in front, protecting your face. This way is how you would do it for the testing requirement. Now we're showing it standing here just so you can kind of see how it's applied. And then, of course, I still come up with my hands up. It's very similar to a front roll, as you can see here. And then, basically done in reverse, it's going to look exactly the same as you tuck your leg, go to your hip, roll over your shoulder, hands are up. Shomenuchi Yoko furumi. This is a side turning body from the downward knife hand strike. As uke strikes at us, we're going to perform the Ikkyo block, or aikiage uke. But we're actually going to feint that block so that at the last minute we can slide our shoulder in, turning our hip in and coming up on the ball of that foot. It's very similar to a slip in boxing, but we're actually going to use it for throwing. As you can see here, I fake the block, slip in, just as he's coming down with his knife hand strike. Ryomunedori Irimi undo no uchi. This is the 2-hand push or grab, and we're going to do the entering exercise, but this time to the inside. The last time we seen this was on the 10th cue, and we did it for the outside, but now we're going to perform the inside version. Notice we turn our body sideways as in hitoemi posture, or the prow of the ship. We're going to narrowly avoid the 2 hands that are pushing on us here as we move our foot, the one that he's trying to step on. And of course, we're going to deflect with the rear hand here in a Suriage tenkan. And the other one's going to do agoski, or hit to the chin, right as he's stepping in. So we're doubling the amount of power to that. We lovingly refer to this as the wedge. Munedori oya yubi hazushi. This is the thumb escape from a grip on the lapel on the inside of the chest. We're going to compress the thumb by putting it in the palm of our hand and making a fist. So once the digit of the thumb is in there, we're going to compress, grab the wrist with the other, and pull away as we push the wrist away from us. Notice I add a little bit of a shoulder push and then pull my shoulder away as I push the thumb away from us. Ushiro Tekubidori Hazushi Jodan. This is the rear wrist grab from behind, escape to the upper level. So if you notice, I bring my hip back, bring my hands forward to my center. I duck my head out. I don't want to bring my hands too high or he'll just let go or re-grab in a bear hug. So notice I just kind of slide under and I move my rear foot to the rear, sliding out, keeping my front foot in his center. Make sure you don't raise your hands higher than your shoulders and just duck your head out. Here you can see an application using Ikkyo in this escape. Chudan, or middle escape. This one we're going to, instead of sliding backwards, we're actually going to step around in kaitenage, or rotary step. Notice the middle level uses one hand high, one hand low. We're going to push the low hand down as we extend the high hand up, and we're going to still duck our head under and out as we turn towards him, stepping. And of course, you can escape the wrist or use the hands that are grabbing to perform a joint lock or a throw. Pivot with the bottom hand side, step to the top hand side. Gedan Hazushi, or lower hand escape. As you can see, I put my hand on my back pocket, turn sideways, and line my other hand up with it just slightly above the other one. If you notice my hand on my back pocket, it's very hard for him to actually drive up into a hammerlock position, thereby wrenching my shoulder joint. Don't stay square here, just turn a little bit sideways, either getting him off balance or making him step as you line your hands up, and turn your hips very forcefully. Notice the distance if you stay square. So of course you're going to turn sideways and then put the thumb over the top, pressing down, turning your body sideways and twisting forcefully with your hips. We call this the gunslinger. As you can see, it looks like we turn to face him with our pistol drawn, like in the old Wild West. Take one more look as we turn the hips forcefully so that we have the power to pull our grip out of his grasp. Ushiro Kata Kubishime Kentsui atemi. This is our rear shoulder and neck choke. We're going to hit with the hammer fist. Notice I protect my neck first. I'm grabbing right at the thumb and wrist, and I'm locking my elbow really hard to my ribs, pulling forward, pushing my hips back. And I shift my hips to the side so I can make room for the strike, as well as give power to the strike as I hit down with a hammer fist. You can also do it with a knife hand, as shown here. We reach down for the family jewels and pull up. We call this the tuck and pluck. And here's one more look at it. Mawashi geri. This is our roundhouse kick. I set my foot outward as I open my hips and swing my leg into it like a baseball bat. Target the common peroneal, side of the knee or belly of the calf. Here I swing my leg to the side of the knee. Here you can see the belly of the calf. And I will open up my leg, swing my leg in, swinging my arm behind me slightly, but protecting my face with the other one. And as you can see, it moves in one smooth motion. Yokomen Kiriotoshi empi. This is a downward slicing elbow or cutting elbow. Notice I will step in with my rear foot in ayumiashi. I will protect myself from the striking arm as I step in with full power into the elbow to the face, cutting down. Geri Sagiashi nagashi. This is a front kick deflection using the one leg stance. Notice I draw my foot up towards my knee in a sweeping motion. This can also be a sweep takedown, but we derive this from the Jo kata when you're actually hitting overhead. But notice I can point my knee to the inside or to the outside depending on what kick is coming and what direction it's coming from. In our testing, we use it against the front kick, and we sweep our leg inward, deflecting the kick past us, or as a shock absorber outward, pushing the kick back towards him. Shomenuchi Suriage Irimi with atemi. Uke does a downward strike as I do a upward sliding deflection by passing it by, and I step on the foot to trap it here. Make sure you step off to the side so you can deflect it and not have to block it. Making sure that the arm is pointed up and out towards uke as I control the arm with the other hand. Here I'm hitting downwards with shote or palm heel. Here's a good view of how to deflect the block. Notice I step out so I can line my arm up with it and actually deflect instead of blocking the hit. If you stay in front of them, you're going to have to block it. You want to make sure there's no corners in your deflection. Have uke strike very hard so that the arm actually glides. If you're bruising your arm over and over, then you're creating too many corners. Practice having it slide down your arm in the double bone block position and not with the single ulna bone sticking out. Kosatedori Ikkyo omote, cross hand grab, first classification technique in front of. Notice I try to do the Kosatedori escape, and as I can't escape, I reverse the opposite way. You need to have the sensitivity to know when you feel that resistance that you twist it back the other way. It's almost a baiting method so that we're kind of getting him to feel like he's going to hold on to us and try to pull back in the direction away from our escape. And we use that energy to go back towards the way that we actually want to go, which is towards the wrist. Posting the elbow towards his ear, and you row it down towards your thighs, locking it to both thighs here. We do the big step in, which is called Dayashi Ho, or large step method. Notice my weight's over his elbow. If you stand up or back slightly, he can stand up easily. So just make sure that when you press it and lock it to your thighs, you torque his elbow with a pull backwards on his elbow, forwards on his wrist. Chest and chin are over the arm. Standing pin is how we're going to finish it for testing. So here we go from the side. You can see in slow motion how I bring it back and reverse it, cut over his wrist, cutting his elbow towards his ear as I step in with the Dayashi Ho, or large step method. There is Koshi Hineri Ho, which is a hip twisting method, but I will row it, and then as I do the second row, that brings him down. My foot's going to be under his shoulder. So here from the front, you can see the double rowing method. Here we go, 1, funakogi undo, funakogi undo. That brings him down. Now for those in Aikido already, notice we stand in Aihanmi, or we both have the same foot forward. And I'm just going to take one large step in, and then of course cut double row, foot under the hand, step out slightly, putting pressure on the shoulder and elbow. Kosatedori Ikkyo ura to the rear of. Notice that I'll take a step in with ayumiashi, and then a tenkan. And then from here, depending on how much he turns around, I may be able to just continue twisting him to the ground, or I may have to push him slightly forward in the rowing method. Here we go. We do the fake or bait, and then as soon as we reverse direction, we step in with the Aikido two-step. That's what we call it. Basically, it's the ayumiashi and tenkan. And then, of course, if he turns halfway, then I will do the rowing method and the standing pin with the torque on the elbow, twisting the wrist forward, twisting the elbow backwards, applying pressure to his shoulder and elbow. Ushiro Tekubidori Aikinage. This is the rear two-hand wrist grab. Aikinage is the Aikido throw using momentum and off balance in order to follow through and throw. Notice it's the Hazushi Jodan from the rear. I make sure that I bring my hips back towards him, hands towards my center, raise up, but only duck my head out. Don't raise it too high. And then, of course, I step back and slide my head under using Ushiro Sorimi. And then I make sure that my tricep is on his armpit. The other one is driving outward. And then I bring him towards the front to off balance him, making him take a step. Make sure that foot is in the center of his body, not too far away. Stretch him out like a rubber band. And then, of course, I'm going to lean my shoulder in, and I'm going to slide forward to finish the throw. Notice we don't start in a natural stance. Usually there's energy in this, so if he pulls backwards, see, you end up in Sankaku-tai stance. If he pushes forward or tackles forward, grabbing your wrist, you still end up in Sankaku-tai stance, not a natural stance. And then I'm going to draw in, making sure I slide out, and then lock him to my shoulder and body. Once you lean forward, you can slide forward to finish the throw. Again, don't raise up. He can just let go. He can re-grab you. He can punch you, whatever. So we're going to slide our head out from under it using Ushiro Sorimi, or the back lean. And of course, finish with Fudodachi, sliding forward. This will help throw him. Suwariwaza-Munedori Sumi ure geri. Suwariwaza is kneeling techniques. Munedori, center of the chest, lapel grab. Sumi is a corner drop with ure geri, which is an arm cut. Sumi is a umbrella of techniques. It's kind of a generic family of techniques. Ure geri is the actual technique that we're using, but since it's the first time people will see Sumi in our testing curriculum, we're actually using Sumi first, and then in ure geri, which is the specific throw. Notice I grab the wrist from underneath, hit to the face with whatever tool you want to hit with, and then make sure your head's up, your posture straight. You bring your knee in and the other knee outward as your full body cuts him down to the outside. It's kind of a circular wave motion backwards. Notice I can re-grab the wrist, re-pin him, do Ikkyo, Nikkyo, whatever else. Hit and drag with the body, open the knee, all in one motion. Tachiwaza, 13 count boken kata. We will draw first, which is called nukitsuke, and then we will cut. This is called Kiriotoshi. Cuts to all 8 corners of the compass, as well as thrusts to the first 4. Finishing the cut, we'll do chiburi, then noto, which is the flinging of the blood, and then resheathing the sword. So let me slow it down here. After I sheath the sword, I step back into musubidachi, which is a tension stance. Of course, I start in musubidachi. Lower my hips and knees as I clear the blade from the sheath. Step back, then step forward with ayumi-ashi. Then I step forward with a thrust. Everything else from here is sliding. So if you notice here, we're sliding with a cut and thrust. Now the 4 other corners are just cuts. And then I will bring it to hasogamai. Here from the side, I clear the kimono from my wrist so I can grab my handle. I clear the blade as I pull the saya back, and then I cut across the eye line, bring it overhead as I step backwards from musubidachi. So clear the kimono, clear the blade, pull it out, pull the saya back as I step backwards with Jodan overhead. Unclip the blade to pull it out, and then of course pull forward. I'm exaggerating the saya forward and back. It's usually a smaller movement. Cut across the eyes, step back, Jodan, cut with Kiriotoshi. And that's a stepping cut. So it's step backwards, step forward with ayumi-ashi. Then I'm going to step forward again as I thrust with the boken, pivot, cut, and slide thrust. Notice from here on out, it's sliding. Cut the next corner as I also slide thrust, pivot, cut the next corner as I slide thrust. Then I go to the 4 corners, the X line, pivot, cut, step forward, cut, pivot, cut, hasogamai, cut across the eye line as I step in kaitenashi, rotary step, withdrawing my other leg, leaning sideways and back as I go wakigamai into a stepping forward cut to finish. Here, chiburi, go noto as I bring the saya up to the tip of the blade, slide it up, lock it into place, pull it back as I step back into a tension stance. So here you can see from the front. I'll let you concentrate here as you watch my movements. Haso across into wakigamai, into a finishing cut, chiburi, noto. As you draw the saya up, make sure you apply pressure to the back of the blade so you don't cut into your hand. Thumb over the guard. Thanks for visiting Aikido's Edge. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.